What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Adulting with Joyce Pring. Dahil Feb-Ibig or Love Month nga ngayon, we wanted to talk to you about different kinds of love. You know, in the English language, love only has one word, love lang, di ba? Or sa atin, pag-ibig. But in the Greek, apparently, merong storge, family love, eros, romantic love, philia, friendship love, and agape, love with God. Love for God and the love that God has for us. And today, I wanted to talk about the love that we first experience in our human existence, which is family love. So how do we love our family? How do we share the gospel to them? And how do we become more present and intentional in the way that we love those who are given to us in our family? Today we have a guest, Ting Sindiong. Hey, Ting!
Hi, Joyce!
I'm so
Grateful for this
excited to be here.
opportunity.
Yeah? O, di ba? Nag-awkward moment na kaagad tayo. Kaya natin to.
Okay.
So Ting has been listening to the podcast. You've been a listener of the podcast,
Yes.
and you're also a sister in Christ. And today we're going to be talking about family love and how we're able to love our family and to share the gospel to them. So one of the things that fascinated me about you and your story is how you shared the gospel to your sister when she was just 10. And then I met her and got to work with her and got to do an event with her a few months ago, diba? And it was really so heartwarming. But let's start first with your own story. How did you come to know the Lord, and what led you to then share the gospel to your 10-year-old sister at that time?
Okay, actually, I grew up in a Catholic family. So, growing up talaga, my parents were very loving to us. And a part of me parang medyo fearful din sa kanila. So, in the span of growing up, parang we were really close ng family. And even my sisters. Pero nung around college, parang feel ko parang medyo, parang may emptiness pa rin. So, I really thought na, baka naman a relationship would fill that void. So, nung college ako, that was when I first had my first relationship. And then that's when pinakalala ko yung boyfriend ko sa parents ko. And then like, my parents was telling me na, my mom actually said na, Ting, okay lang ba, wag ka muna mag-boyfriend. After college na lang. So sabi ko, okay. Pero nung time na yun, kami na. So parang sabi ko, sige, tago ko na lang. So parang, alam yung first time of disobedience and first time of rebellion. And that's when I first had my first relationship, and then I felt like na, syempre, baka ito yung mag-fulfill ng void sa heart ko. Pero after like 7 months, I felt like parang empty pa rin. Ganun. So we ended up breaking up, and I got depressed and had anxiety as well. And then a college friend of mine in Benil shared the gospel to me. And then she invited me to a Bible study in LaSalle. And then when I attended, parang may mga sharing, gano'n. So parang hindi ko feel. Sabi ko, Lord, parang sabi ko sa friend ko, sorry, it's not for me eh. Parang ayoko nag-share kasi to strangers.
Yeah.
So yung friend ko, she was very intentional enough to tell me na, Ting, if it's okay, sumo one-on-one na lang tayo every week.
Oh, what a good friend.
Yeah. And then she shared to me Purpose-Driven Life, yung Rick Warren. And then that's when I was really like, that's when I got to know the Lord. And yung parang God-shaped vacuum in our heart that we try to fill, na-realize ko it's really the Lord who will fill it. And that's when I grew. It was like years of growing. That's when my friend invited me to a D group, and then I grew, and talagang I really had a personal relationship with the Lord, which really filled that void in my heart.
I love that.
You can fill.
Ang galing naman. You know, what a beautiful story. Kasi apart from seeing that God really meets us where we are at, I think it's so beautiful that nakita din dun sa story na yun na your friend was intentional with loving you, right? In showing up for you na nung sinabi mo, hindi ako comfortable with sharing with strangers. She wasn't like, ang weird mo naman, mag-share ka lang eh, di ba?
Kaya nga eh.
She was like, if you're not comfortable, let me show up for you in a different way so that you can open up, and I can love you in the way that you need me at that moment, which is so so helpful. And I think it's just a good reminder for us na if we want to love people intentionally, we have to show up for them in ways that they will really appreciate and understand.
Yeah.
Which eventually led you to sharing the gospel to your then 10-year-old sister.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Hindi kasi galing akong big retreat nun. And then,
On fire,
on
ganun.
fire ka pa, diba? So, after nun, parang challenge nun was to share the gospel to someone after the retreat. So parang, I was really praying pag uwi ko, Lord, sino kaya pwede? Kasi parang, I'm close to my family, pero may fear pa rin to share. Because first Christian in the family eh. Pero naisip ko, youngest sister ko, yung madaling, hindi mautuin, no? Pero alam mo, parang madaling i-influence. So,
Yeah.
pag uwi ko, parang she was still 10 years old nung time na yun. And then, I remember, I like, locked her in a room ko, and then, sinabi ko, kasi as I call my sister, kasi tata is baby in Ilonggo. So sabi ko, ta, can I share to you something? So parang sabi, yeah, sure, ganun. So, shinare ko yung gospel. Actually, I had the gospel track with me. Then I shared to her, and then we prayed the prayer, she accepted. Pero yun na yun. Yun na yung parang planting the seeds. I wasn't really expecting na, like, she would change, alam mo yun. But now that seeing God's faithfulness, she's already 30 now, pero it took like 10 to 20 years for her to really grow. So nakikita ko yung how you plant a seed and God will make it grow in His time.
Yeah.
Not in our timing, but in His time.
But to answer that call, diba, is so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I think that's why we're making this podcast here today, because I know a lot of, I know myself, this is something that I also struggle with. And one of the things that people would always say, Christians would always say, is it's even easier to share the gospel to strangers rather than our family members. Because with strangers, you share the gospel and you're like, if they don't like it, if they react violently, if they think that you're crazy now, it's fine. Like, you can just walk away and go on with your day and have your own businesses, right? But when it's your family, so many things are hanging on to it, right? You have a relationship already.
Yeah.
It's not like you can step out of this relationship and you know this person. I remember a friend of mine who was saying na, ang hirap siya rin ng dad ko kasi kilala ko yan eh. Alam mo yun, natitigilan nila yung sarili nila kasi kilala ko yan. Hindi siya open to this. Hindi siya mag-a-accept, and he might even be offended if I share this to them. But so let's start with, what does the Bible tell us about our family relationships? How are we supposed to conduct ourselves in our family relationships, and how are we supposed to love those in our families?
Yeah. So for me, like, ang isa sa mga Bible principles that I remember is, if you're following the Lord, you will know you are His disciple if you love one another. So what is love? Diba? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not boast. It's not proud. It's not envious. It does not keep records of wrong. So for me, parang loving family is really going through the trials and the celebrations as well. So I think God has put us in a family for us to learn how to love unconditionally and learn how to also accept each other's flaws and mistakes. And yun, parang for me, family kasi, honestly, barkada ko kasing family ko. Like, I love spending time with them. I love hanging out with them. And syempre, normal yung conflict as well. So you really learn how to love them and accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
So,
You know, that's one of the things that I really find amazing with how God designed the family, diba? Like, every person is born into a family.
yeah.
Right? You have a mother and a father. Before you come into this earth, kailangan may mother and father para mabuo ka. That's why the sanctity of marriage is so important. That's why sex is so important to stay in the marriage, because God designed it that when a baby is created in the womb and is born, immediately there's a relationship there. To
Yeah.
what you're saying, na
Yeah.
it's the design of God for us to learn to communicate with one another, to adjust to one another, to love one another. You're not born into this world na mag-isa ka lang eh. Kaagad meron kang family, meron ka agad na nanay at tatay. And eventually, if you have siblings, diba, you'll have siblings.